Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Today is Monday, November 6, 2023, and we are here today gathered for a land use hearing for the Board of County Commissioners for Larimer County. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shapnally, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. Again, we welcome you. I am joined at the dais by my colleague, Larimer County Commissioner John Kafalis. Today, Commissioner Stevens is excused. Also joining and helping us with our hearing today is our clerk to the board, Deidre O'Neill. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Also, we have our county attorney, Frank Haug, who is our assistant county attorney, is joining us for our land use hearings. Thank you, Frank. Amy White from Code Compliance Manager. Amy, glad to have you here. Matt Lafferty from our Community Planning and Development. And we have Rebecca Everett, our Community Development Director. Thank you, Rebecca, for all the things you do to help make these meetings smooth for us. And then Jenny Axmaker from our Community Development Office, and we are grateful for all of you and the work that you do for us. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Rebecca to kind of introduce how this hearing might work and how the accessibility, and then I will talk about the items that we have on the agenda today. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon. We respectfully request that all members of the public please silence their electronic devices, and please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedure instructions, which are located to the wall just to the right of the hearing room entrance and also posted online. Please wait to speak until recognized by the chair at the appropriate time in the agenda, and please make all comments to the Board of County Commissioners from the podium facing the commissioners. We also have a portable microphone and assisted listening devices available as needed. For anyone on Zoom, you will be muted until you are recognized by the chair. And if you wish to speak or request a consent item to be removed for discussion, please use the raise hand function on the Zoom control bar. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. As I stated, we are here for a land use hearing today, and we have three items on two different agendas. We have our public hearing consent item agenda, which I'll read through in a moment, and then we have a public hearing discussion items, and we have two items there. But first, I will talk about the consent agenda, and we have one item on that agenda, which is amendments to the Larimer County Land Use Code, file number 23-CODE0274, and for the public's knowledge, consent agenda items are land use proposals where the applicant, which is the county in this instance, and the planning department services team are in agreement with the details of the proposal recommendations, and furthermore, consent items are presented when there's no known opposition, and they're approved collectively without a full hearing. A consent agenda item can be pulled from the agenda by one of the commissioners or a member of the public. And so now I will ask my colleague, Commissioner Kafalis, do you wish to pull this item of the consent agenda, the amendments to the land use code from the agenda, sir?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And so now I'll ask anybody in the public who might want to pull this item from the consent agenda. And if so, we'll have a full hearing. You may just raise your hand and indicate you'd like to pull that. Okay, so now I'll ask Rebecca, we have anybody online who might want to have a comment or have something to do, pull that item.
We have one person who's called in to listen to the meeting. For that person who's listening by phone, if you press *9, that should raise your hand if you would like to speak or you'd like to pull this item from the consent agenda for a full discussion. Give it a moment. And I'm not seeing a hand raised.
Okay, thank you. I don't see that I have any indication from anyone, a member of the public, for pulling any items off the consent agenda. So now I will ask my colleague, Commissioner Commissioner Kafala, excuse me, sir, to please make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to. Good afternoon, everyone. I move to approve the single item on the November 6, 2023 consent agenda, amendments to the Larimer County Land Use Code, file number 23-code 0274.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that motion. Any further discussion? With all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, staff, for your hard work on that, those amendments to the code, and we appreciate all the work. And thank you. And so we'll move on now on to the next item, which is a public hearing discussion items, which is, we'll go with the first item, which is the second amended ordinance for implementation and enforcement of short-term rental regulations. And will I turn this over to you, Rebecca, or to Amy? So that's why I thought, I just want to make sure. So Amy White, our code compliance supervisor, thank you for being here. And I know you've put a lot of work in this, so we'll turn this over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Amy White, Code Compliance Supervisor. And we are here today to discuss the amendments to the short-term rental enforcement ordinance. We have amended this. The ordinance was first heard in November of 2021. It became effective in December of 2021. And then in conjunction with the short-term rental regulations that were revised earlier this year, we also took advantage to supplement the ordinance, and that was read in May of this year, and it became effective in June of this year. Also in June of this year, House Bill 1287 passed, which allowed the county to actually enforce some of the regulations against the platforms, so like VRBO and Airbnb. We could now ask them to remove illegal listings and provide them documentation as to why they're illegal. And to do that, we needed to, again, amend the ordinance to include some of that language that was provided. So once we notify the platforms, they are required to remove the advertising within 7 days. It also requires the platforms to actually publish the approval number or the license number instead of the owner. Our ordinance currently reads that it's the owner that has that onus. So those were some of the reasons why we did this. So having said that, I'm sure you all are as happy as I was that I don't have to read the whole thing. Per Frank's advice, I can just read what was actually the new verbiage. So Section 8, other requirements, paragraph F now reads advertising. Any advertising shall contain the approved number of occupants. Paragraph G, there's a new paragraph G that was added, and it reads, vacation rental service mandatory field and takedown. All vacation rental services that display short-term rental listings for properties in Larimer County shall require that each owner or owner's agent using the vacation rental service include a license number in any listing for a short-term rental on the vacation rental service. A vacation rental service shall remove any listing, thank you, for a short-term rental from the platform after notification by Larimer County that the license number associated with the short-term rental listing is invalid, expired, or has been revoked, or that Larimer County has a prohibition on short-term rentals that applies to the listing. The notification must include the listing URL and any other identifying information available to Larimer County and include the reason for removal. The platform shall remove the listing within 7 days of receiving the notification from Larimer County. And then subsection A to paragraph G is the definition for vacation rental service. Means a person that operates a website or any other digital platform that provides a means through which an owner or owner's agent may offer a lodging unit or portion thereof for short-term rentals and from which the person financially benefits. So with that, the former paragraph G now became H. The former paragraph H now becomes I, and the former paragraph I becomes J. And then finally, the last change would be section 12, the publication and effective date. So that will now read, paragraph B will now read, following the initial publication, the ordinance shall take effect 30 days after the date of publication in said newspaper. The ordinance will be enforced for vacation rental services 120 days after the effective date. So with those changes, what happens now is once you all provide any kind, this was the first reading, so you all can make changes, you can do what you need to do is that. We'll then publish the ordinance for 10 days, and then we are scheduled to come back before you on December 4th for the second reading. At that hearing, I will have a proposed motion for you and will obtain proper signatures. We then publish the second amended ordinance for 30 days, and after that 30 days, it will become effective. So we're thinking the end of December, early January of next year. Do you have any questions?
Real quick, Amy, on page 5 of that ordinance, but 23 on my packet, I see when you talked about H and I, H is right next to noise. Maybe I'm just being clerical, but we'll probably clean this up. But do we put a dot in between H and N for noise, and all of that will be taken up and kind of cleaned up? So.
Yes, Commissioner,
Okay.
we'll take care of those. And I know Commissioner Kafalis also had some grammatical and one semi-substantive thing that we'll be looking at as well. So we'll take care of all of that at once.
And we don't have to, and I guess as a question for Frank, the little clerical changes like that don't require as much formality. We can clean up some of those for first reading, and the second reading it won't really slow down the process.
No, that's fine. And what'll happen after the second reading, today we're just reading it, and then the next time you'll vote to approve it. If you make any changes like those, we'll note it, and then we have to republish it with whatever was changed.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the one only had. So Commissioner Foster, any questions or comments?
I was just going to say, since we haven't published it, if there are those minor clarifications, we can do that before we publish it. So we've got enough time built in between this hearing and the second hearing.
Okay. All right, thank you. And thanks for clarifying the 30 days and publishing and when it will be effect. So right now, the state law is in effect, but ours, so we're having them follow state law, but ours will follow up and be under that.
That is correct. And in my conversations with Airbnb and VRBO, I've asked them to remove a couple now, and they said they can't do it until it's actually effective. So that's what they've told me.
Even with state law, huh? Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner?
Yes, I have a question, and just to add to what has been referenced earlier. My question is, since this document is a public document, what kind of community engagement or public input have we received on this iteration of the Second Amendment to the enforcement?
Thank you, Commissioner. We have not received any kind of feedback from folks. We are toying with the idea of when this becomes effective, of maybe doing a mail merge and getting it out to all the property managers again, just as a reminder. So I would work with the CERT team to see if we can make that happen.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for your hard work, you and your team.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. Yeah, one thing that I forgot to make perfectly clear is that with the addition of these amendments, it doesn't change the rest of the ordinance in any way, shape, or form. So all those other enforcement tools and regulations will remain the same.
And just so it's clear, the only thing this really affects is the vendors. So like VRBO and Airbnb, it doesn't change anything for the people that are applying or really how they operate. It's just the online companies. And Amy has had several conversations with the main ones of those folks.
Thank you. And so my comments are just that I did identify a few typos, formatting, punctuation, and one perhaps incorrect reference to one of our departments. And I've marked that up, and I'm happy to share that with you. And if you have any questions, Amy, about what my comments are, you can let me know. But otherwise, I think it's all technical in nature, non-substantive.
Great, yeah, I'll look forward to those. And again, we can put those in now before we publish it so that what we publish is the final one.
So that's a great question, real quick for Frank. So since haven't seen those additions that he's added in, will I just look at those? Those will have to be voted by all of us because that's why I didn't bring up my other changes until today, because I thought we all had to be able to see them.
We can collect the ones from both of the commissioners and then put together a draft that reflects both of those, and we'll send it back out.
And then we all can, and then Commissioner Stevens can also comment or
Correct.
on that. Okay, thank you. All right, and then the other question I have, real quick, on section, I think it was 12, or no, the paragraph G that you mentioned on page 5, when you talked about operates a website or any other digital platforms, you're also talking about other locally, like realtor sites or other things that are advertising. So that's how we kind of captured other sites that are renting out things.
That's correct, Commissioner. And at that point, I have not had conversations with those folks, but the local ones and then HomeAway will make a concerted effort to reach out to those folks as well. The new third-party platform party that we're going to use crawls like 35 to 38 different web sites for the platform. So we'll try to incorporate all of those.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, I think that's the only question I have. So any other comments, questions? Okay, so what's next for this hearing today? Just that reading, and we don't need to take an action on this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, well, thank you. Amy, you've done a lot of hard work, and I really appreciate all that you're doing, and thank you for the work that you've done, and appreciate your diligence and dedication. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the legislative rezoning from open to natural resources NR file number 23-CONE 3537. And Mr. Lafferty is going to lead us through this discussion. So I will turn this over to you, Mr. Lafferty. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Matt Lafferty, Principal Planner, Current Planning Department. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a legislative rezoning that we're proposing in conjunction with our Natural Resources Department, who is also present in today's hearing. Megan Flanagan and Dalen Figgs are also here. They've been kind enough to help us through this legislative rezoning and work with us and the city of Fort Collins on rezoning certain properties in Larimer County from an open zone district to a natural resources zone district. And we're going to discuss that a little bit briefly in a minute. But I wanted to give you a little bit of history. I did this with the Planning Commission, just a brief history of zoning in Larimer County and how it's come about. In 1963, the open zone district was created along with several other zone districts around the urban areas. But the predominant zone district out there was the open zone district, and it was created in 1963. And at that time, most people understood that zone district to be exactly what it said, an open zone district, meaning that you are allowed to do anything in that zone district that you chose to do on your property, except for those things that were restricted by the land use code. That zoning district stayed in place until 1973, in which time the open zone district became a more modern zone district when we adopted regulations that said these are the uses that are now permitted within that open zone district, and all other uses not listed are not permitted. And it identified special review uses and other things like that. And so today, that's what predominantly exists across the county. On the map in the corner up here, it shows this kind of a beige area, and that's the predominant area of open zoning in our county. Over the years from 1973 until current, that open zone district has remained in place, and it's relatively remained unchanged from its inception, with the exception that numerous uses were added to it over the years, largely at the request of private property owners that wanted to do something unique on their property that wasn't permitted. And the board would go ahead and approve and change some of that zoning. And we saw that to be somewhat of a messy type of a platform for creating zoning. And so with the most recent adoption of the land use code, we've created a series of new zoning districts. One of them, which is the Natural Resources Zone District. We also created an Agricultural Zone District and a couple of others. And the intent behind these zone districts is to align our zoning with our comprehensive plan, which was adopted in 2019. And that land use objectives from the comprehensive plan are what our vision is and what our land use should look like over the next 20 years. And so this proposal is the beginning of a series of legislative rezonings that we're going to take effort in to rezone portions of the county from open to these new updated zone districts. So in working with the Department of Natural Resources and the City of Fort Collins, we've identified properties throughout Larimer County. Sorry, I got to change my map here so it's full screen. We've identified properties that are natural resource owned properties. These are properties that Larimer County owns and the City of Fort Collins owns, and some of them have a party interest by the City of Loveland. And you can see them in this dark green area on the map. Is what we're talking about. And so we're taking those properties and we're moving them out of the open zone district into this new natural resources district. And the aim of that district is to influence the preservation and the ongoing use of those properties as natural resource properties and conservation properties. And it should, when we're done with this map in the next couple of years, the map will look totally different, and we will be able to read that map with the understanding of where each of these zone districts will lie in the county, ag and natural resources in our rural residential areas, such that it will give you a better idea of what the objectives of the county are. And so this is the first step. It was a pilot project to see how it would go, and it's gone rather smoothly. I would say that we noticed the project because it's required to be noticed by state law by publishing the zoning map in a public place for viewing by the public, and then they can come and make comments. We put it on our webpage as a bonus, but it's been posted on the third floor of the courthouse for almost 90 days now for public viewing and comment, and we haven't received any comment during that period of time. On the board before you now are the 6 criteria that you will find for a zoning application in Larimer County. And it talks a little bit about what the Board of County Commissioners should consider when going through a rezoning application. And item 1 is that we look to make sure that the uses are compatible, that this zoning district is compatible with the area as well. These are predominantly natural resource properties that we've already acquired and are using as natural open spaces. And what we're doing is we're identifying these uses, these zoning districts, in alignment with our comprehensive plan. And so it is compatible because our comprehensive plan is telling us that this is the land use type that should be appropriate for those areas. So when we do get future applications in proximity to these areas, we can look at those from a compatibility to say, are those uses compatible with these underlying zone districts, such as natural resources, be able to ask the question of other properties. Does this support a community need or a public benefit? It does. Larimer County spent a substantial amount of time and effort and money in generating our comprehensive plan and talking to our community about what our long-term vision of the county is. And it was identified during that time that these are the appropriate land uses that are for these areas, and therefore the zoning is appropriate to marry up with those land uses. Is there a change of circumstances supporting this? And that again speaks to our comprehensive plan and the adoption of new zone districts. So yes, we're in alignment with that criteria. Is there adequate infrastructure? Nothing is being proposed from the standpoint of any new uses in this case, so infrastructure wouldn't be evaluated at this time. If something new is being proposed on these properties, we would then apply that question to those properties. And then does this change result in a significant impact to our natural resources or the environment. And quite the converse, I think it's intended to protect them. And so we believe we're in alignment with that criteria number 5. Criteria 6 has to do with growth management areas, and this shouldn't affect those areas of the county. So with that, I'm asking that the Board of County Commissioners, after this was presented to the Planning Commission, they had a unanimous recommendation. So today I'm asking that the board approve the proposed zoning amendments to the Larimer County zoning map and the Front Range zoning map. I have those both here with me today, changing the zoning of several publicly owned parcels to natural resources as proposed by the Community Development Department. In addition to that, we'll ask that you move to adopt the Larimer County zoning map and the Larimer County Front Range zoning map as proposed, and they will become the official maps of Larimer County until we change them again. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that presentation, and thanks for taking us through those steps. And thank you to all the staff being here today in support. I will now ask if we had some folks in the public, but I'll just go ahead and ask it because we should go on to public comment. So I'll just ask if there's anyone in the room. I'll open public comment. I'll ask if there's anybody in the room who would like to make public comment. Seeing none. All right, so I'll ask Rebecca now to ask if there is anyone online. I don't think we received any public comment on this, at least for this hearing. Would you ask to see if there's anyone online who'd like to make public comment on this item?
We no longer have any members of the public online with us, so no hands raised.
Okay, so I will now close public comment. So I don't think there's any other need other than I'll see if my colleague Commissioner Falls, do you have any questions, sir, about this for staff of this item on our public hearing discussion?
Yes, I have a question or two. Just to clarify, thank you, Madam Chair. To clarify, the reference in our packet talks about 60% of the county is publicly owned land. And what we are proposing here, the rezoning, applies to public land that is owned by the county, and or there's an agreement with the city of Fort Collins natural areas, because in some cases we work together on the preservation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So
And
this wouldn't apply to state-owned lands or anything else?
that's the next step in the process, is to work with our state landholders and our federal landowners to do the same thing. This was a pilot project to make sure that we got the process down straight.
And has there been any public engagement on this rezoning, this first step, as you indicate, Matt?
Not any more than just the preparation and the notice that was provided in the mail and that.
I appreciate all
And
the
the
great
paper.
work you've done on this. I don't think I have any other questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know that we've been talking about this for a while now, and and like you said, it's been noticed for 90 days in the Planning Commission, and we had this discussion also during the oil and gas hearings because this was a new placeholder holder in our oil and gas regulations too for that. So I know that it's not something that hasn't at least publicly been discussed that this was coming. So I appreciate all the work on this, and I'm glad we're getting through this first step so we can move on to our other state and federal partners, because there's a lot of other areas that could probably qualify under this zoning. So, and I know this is something I had a lot of questions in the beginning, but as we've gone along, you've all done a great job helping us understand the benefits of this. We appreciate our partners and leadership in Department of Natural Resources, because I think this is a really important step in clarifying the land use code, but also kinds of aligns with, I think, not only our values, but also the public has been, I think, pretty loud and clear about they value our open spaces. So I think this aligns with that as well. So I don't have any other questions other than just comment to say well done. I know all of you put a lot of work into this, and I appreciate the partnership between the Department of Natural Resources and Planning and the Seabirds Department. This is really great work. And so without any further discussion or deliberation, Commissioners, two motions. I was hoping, Frank, do we need to do these separately, or can we read them together and make one big vote?
You can read them together.
Okay.
If
Predominantly what's on the screen, I rewrote.
Yeah, if you-
I put on the screen what we would suggest the motion to be.
Okay. So Commissioner Cafalos, please, would you make both those motions in one swoop? Thank you.
I move that, excuse me, I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the proposed zoning amendments to the Larimer County zoning map and the Larimer County Front Range zoning map, planning file number 23-zone 3527, changing the zoning designation of multiple publicly owned properties to natural resources as proposed by the Community Development Department. And furthermore, I move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the Larimer County zoning map and the Larimer County Front Range zoning map as proposed.
Thank you, Commissioner, for those two motions. Any further discussion or deliberation?
We vote on,
Yep.
one vote on both of these.
Yes, that's what I had asked for. Okay.
Yes. No,
Frank, are we all set for the vote? Okay. Without any further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, without any other further business for the Board of County Commissioners for this land use hearing at 3:31, we are adjourned. Thank you all.